The observation chamber of the Galactic Concorde's research vessel Vigilant Truth hung suspended in the void between Mars and Jupiter, its crystalline exterior refracting starlight into prismatic patterns across the hull. Inside, representatives of 17 species crowded the hexagonal viewing platform, their diverse biologies requiring distinct atmospheric bubbles, gravity adjustments, and temperature controls. Ambassador Xirthal, the Concorde's chief sinologist, pressed a translucent appendage against the central console. His skin, transparent enough to reveal the complex neural pathways pulsing beneath, rippled with agitation as the holographic display activated, projecting high-definition surveillance of Earth captured by their cloaked satellites. Observe specimen designation 94C. Xirthal instructed, voice modulator converting his native harmonic resonances into sounds the Council could comprehend. The display focused on a human female in Tehran, rushing into a burning building to save children trapped inside, despite having no biological connection to them. Now contrast with specimen 94C 12 hours later. The same human appeared at a violent protest, hurling debris at authorities who had failed to maintain the building's safety standards. The Quar representative, a crystalline entity who served as the Concorde's living archive, vibrated in distress, their faceted surface fracturing slightly along ancient fault lines. Impossible contradiction, the Quar hummed, data crystals within their core structure struggling to categorize the behavior patterns. No evolutionary path produces such cognitive dissonance. Self-preservation algorithms cannot coexist with self-sacrifice imperatives at this magnitude. Relta, the Trelvac mediator, floated forward in her low-gravity bubble. This marks the 17th consecutive prediction failure. Our most sophisticated algorithms cannot anticipate human responses to even basic stimuli. Her feathered tendrils coiled anxiously. They shouldn't exist. Not naturally. The Ephemeride's representative, a being of pure mathematics inhabiting a synthetic form, projected a cascade of probability calculations that flickered across the chamber walls. Behavioral patterns exceed chaos thresholds. I recommend immediate reclassification. Xirthal's secondary breathing sacs inflated with reluctance. To what category? Humans defy all 17 established archetypes. Silence enveloped the chamber as the holographic display cycled through more human contradictions, warring nations collaborating on space exploration, individuals sacrificing well-being for abstract concepts like justice, art created with no survival function, belief systems maintained despite contradictory evidence. There is precedent, whispered the ancient Relta, her voice barely audible through the translator. The chamber's temperature dropped several degrees as attention focused on the mediator. The 18th classification. Murmurs rippled through the assembled representatives. The Quar's crystalline body emitted an alarm frequency, cracking further along previously invisible stress lines. We have operated under the 17 archetypes for millions of years, Xirthal countered, neural pathways flashing with agitation. The 18th was sealed by unanimous council vote after the Urquette, completed Relta. Yes. And now our deep space arrays detect humans simultaneously developing interplanetary travel capabilities and new planet-killing weapons. The pattern is unmistakable. Xirthal's appendage trembled against the console as he accessed the restricted archives, requiring 17 simultaneous authorization codes. The holographic display shifted, replacing Earth imagery with a shadowy silhouette labeled in characters so ancient the translator refused to process them. I propose breaking our oldest law, Xirthal announced, his voice modulator struggling with the emotional overtones. Direct contact before planetary unification. The council erupted in chaos, some representatives physically recoiling, others emitting warning pheromones or defensive radiation. The risk is too great, protested the nurturer representative, her photosynthetic membrane darkening with stress. The risk of inaction is greater, Xirthal replied, manipulating the display to show Earth's accelerating technological growth curve. If humans are what we fear, Observation alone is insufficient. And if they are something else entirely? He paused, neural pathways pulsing with an emotion the translator couldn't parse. Then the Concord must know before they leave their cradle world. The emergency vote was unprecedented. Contact authorization granted despite 3 abstentions. As the council dispersed, Xyrthal remained alone in the observation chamber, watching Earth rotate slowly in the holographic display, its blue-white surface deceptively peaceful against the void. "What are you?" he whispered to the distant planet. The translator remained silent, as if some questions transcended universal language itself. Dr. Eleanor Chen's midnight shift at the Deep Space Listening Array in the Chilean Atacama Desert had been unremarkable until precisely 3:17 a.m., when her coffee mug began vibrating across the monitoring station desk. She reached to steady it, then froze as she registered the readings flooding her detection arrays. Signal patterns unlike anything humanity had ever recorded. "System malfunction," she muttered, running diagnostics that came back clean. The waveforms pulse with mathematical precision, exhibiting properties that should have been impossible, simultaneously particle and wave, existing in quantum superposition while remaining measurable. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she initiated global protocols for potential first contact, knowing the planetary response would be chaos. She was right. 72 hours later, as the signal evolved from pure mathematics to complex diagrams depicting Europa's subsurface ocean, 17 emergency sessions at the United Nations nearly collapsed into armed conflict over who would represent humanity's first delegation. Nations that had been historical enemies threatened preemptive strikes against launch facilities. Corporations filed emergency injunctions claiming proprietary technologies would be needed for the mission. The solution came from an unexpected source: Captain Maya Okafor, her dark skin bearing the distinctive scarification of her Nigerian heritage, alongside the precision line implants of a military neural interface, stood before the fractious Security Council with unblinking confidence. "While you debate, they're waiting," she said simply. The room quieted. Her reputation preceded her. The controversial Amazon War peacekeeping mission had earned her decorations for saving thousands of lives and death threats for the compromises necessary to achieve it. "I've reviewed Dr. Chen's signal analysis. This isn't a negotiation invitation. It's an assessment summons. Maya's unique psychological profile, empathetic yet unflinching, analytical yet intuitive, made her the only candidate all factions could reluctantly accept. 3 weeks later, humanity's hastily modified prototype vessel, the Harbinger, approached Europa with Maya leading a small, carefully selected team. Dr. Chen, Lieutenant Hiroshi Sato, security specialist with background in digital archaeology, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, cynobiologist, and Svetlana Petrova, quantum physicist. Contact protocols established, Chen announced from the sensor station as they descended through Europa's ice shell, using coordinates extracted from the alien transmission. "But I'm detecting something odd. The thermal signature below indicates at least 17 distinct environmental zones." The Harbinger emerged into a vast subsurface cavern, its spotlights illuminating what appeared impossible. A massive habitat complex extending beyond visual range, divided into environmental bubbles containing everything from methane oceans to crystalline deserts to gravitational anomalies that bent light itself. "They've been expecting us for some time," Svetlana whispered, checking readings that indicated the structure predated humanity's earliest civilizations. Their airlock cycled, connecting to an adapter that hadn't existed moments before. The aliens had manufactured a human-compatible interface instantaneously. Maya led her team through, entering a neutral chamber where atmosphere composition shifted in real time to match their requirements. Before them stood Ambassador Xyrthal, flanked by representatives of species so diverse that human minds struggle to categorize them. Beings of crystal, light, gas, and forms that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the human eye could process. "Captain Maya Okafor," said Xyrthal, his translator device struggling with human phonetics. The Galactic Concord welcomes Earth's first delegation. Maya maintained practiced diplomatic composure, but her enhanced perception, a military augmentation designed to detect threat indicators, registered something unmistakable in the aliens' posture and positioning. Beneath their diplomatic veneer, these advanced beings exhibited subtle signs recognizable in every species across Earth. Fear response. They were afraid of humans. Ambassador, Maya replied evenly. Humanity is honored by this historic meeting. We have many questions. As do we. Xyerthal responded, his neural pathways visibly pulsing beneath translucent skin. Perhaps more than you realize. The grand amphitheater beneath Europa's ice stretched beyond human comprehension, its architecture defying terrestrial physics. The ceiling mimicked a perfect starfield, not as humans saw it from Earth, but as it appeared from 17 different homeworlds simultaneously, star patterns overlapping in impossible configurations. Maya's team followed Xyerthal down a spiraling pathway that adjusted its gravity and atmospheric composition with each step to match their physiology perfectly. Around them, representatives of the Concord species observed from their respective environmental zones, appendages and sensory organs tracking the human's movements with unmistakable caution. We have studied your world for 700 of your years. Explained as they reached the central platform. Yet you remain difficult to categorize. You've classified other species. Dr. Chen asked, her scientist's curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. The amphitheater darkened as holographic displays materialized around them. 17 distinct alien forms, each labeled with glyphs that the human translation software rendered imperfectly. Navigators, archivists, synthesizers, nurturers, and other designations less easily captured in human language. The cosmic order manifests through specialized evolutionary paths, Xyerthal explained. Each sapient species develops capabilities matched to their ecological role. The Trollvac evolved empathic networks that make them natural mediators. My people, the Lumaxerai, developed perceptual frameworks, allowing us to comprehend multidimensional patterns. The core became living archives. The crystalline core representative approach, their faceted body refracting light into data patterns. For 11 billion years, every discovered species has fit one of 17 archetypes. Until your kind. Maya studied the empty 18th display. And where do humans fit? The amphitheater lights dimmed further as Xyerthal reluctantly activated the final hologram, a shadowy, predatory silhouette labeled with characters so ancient that the translator failed completely. Hunter. Xyerthal finally supplied, the word carrying weight beyond its simple meaning. Dr. Nkrumah stepped forward. Every species hunts for resources or survival at some evolutionary stage. That's hardly unique. The quar's crystalline body reconfigured, projecting a perfect three-dimensional reconstruction of human history, simultaneous images of Earth's bloodiest conflicts alongside its greatest achievements, artistic wonders beside weapons of mass destruction, selfless heroes beside genocidal tyrants. You misunderstand, said the quar, voice resonating through crystal facets. Your kind builds wonders with one hand and fashions weapons with the other. You nurture and destroy simultaneously. You imagine impossibilities, then force reality to accommodate them. Lieutenant Sato, whose neural enhancements allowed him to process visual data faster than his colleagues, noticed untranslated glyphs beneath the hunter classification. What does that designation mean? He demanded, pointing to the characters. The Concord representatives exchanged what might have been glances, though their sensory organs made it difficult to be certain. Urket, Xyerthal finally replied, the translator refusing to convert the term. And what does Urket mean? Maya pressed. The nurturer representative, a being composed of photosynthetic membranes constantly shifting between solid and liquid states, physically recoiled. The galaxy has known only one hunter species before yours. The nurturer whispered, speaking for the first time. The Urkit nearly consumed all sapient life 1 million years ago before vanishing. We thought, hoped, their kind was extinct. Maya felt her team's shock, but maintained diplomatic composure. You believe humans are related to these, Urkit. Exurethal manipulated a DNA hologram that shifted chaotically between forms. Not merely related. Your adaptive capabilities, your cognitive contradictions, your capacity for both creation and destruction. They are Urkit traits awakening after 1 million years of dormancy. The untranslated root of Urkit finally processed through the human linguistic software. Extinction bringer. Lieutenant Hiroshi Sato couldn't sleep. The Europa habitat provided by the Concorde was perfect in every measurable parameter. Oxygen levels, temperature, lighting. Yet something felt wrong. He paced the common area while his teammates finally succumbed to exhaustion after the revelations of the amphitheater. His military neural enhancements kept highlighting subtle incongruities, airflow patterns that didn't match visible vent placements, slight delays in the habitat's response to their movements, harmonic frequencies just beyond conscious hearing. We're being watched, he whispered to himself, running his fingers along the seemingly seamless wall. His implants had been designed for archaeological data recovery before being repurposed for military applications, an unconventional background that now proved invaluable. Near the acoustic dampening field surrounding Dr. Chen's sleeping pod, his fingers detected it. A conceptual overlap between human musical harmonics and the Concorde's Base 17 data encryption. Not a physical access point, but a dimensional one. He hesitated only briefly before waking Chen. I need your expertise with pattern mathematics, he explained. I think I found their surveillance backdoor. Chen's exhaustion vanished instantly. Show me. Working through what felt like Earth's night cycle, they exploited the overlap, breaching the alien firewall by thinking in patterns the Concorde couldn't conceptualize, using human music theory to create interference waves in the quantum computing substrate. The data they accessed turned their blood cold. This can't be right, Chen whispered, staring at the translated schematics. They're calling it a containment assessment, a solar flare artificially directed toward Earth's communication infrastructure. Time to hit in 6 hours. Sato's enhancement implants flashed warning indicators across his vision. The first of 17 escalating tests, he confirmed, scanning deeper into the alien protocols. They're testing our response to crisis. We need to warn Earth. Chen grabbed for their communication equipment, but Sato stayed her hand. The Concorde monitors all standard channels. We need something they won't expect. Chen's eyes widened with realization. Compression algorithms based on prime number sequences. We've been experimenting with them for deep space communication. They'll hide our message from Concorde surveillance. Not hide. They'll make it appear as background radiation. The Concorde's Base 17 mathematics won't recognize the pattern, but our systems will. They worked frantically, encoding morning coordinates targeting 12 strategic Earth locations, the predicted impact zones for the artificial flare. The message transmitted as quantum noise, invisible to conventional monitoring. 4 hours later, Maya was awakened by an alert from Earth. The warning had been received. Emergency protocols activated globally with unprecedented cooperation. Nations that had been enemies only days earlier shared resources and expertise, establishing backup communication systems with remarkable efficiency. When the solar flare struck, its precision revealed its artificial nature. It targeted communication arrays in exactly the 12 locations they had identified. Yet within hours, Earth had established workarounds, maintaining 83% of global communication capability despite the attack. That evening, Maya confronted Exurethal during what was supposed to be a diplomatic dinner. She placed evidence of their interference on the table between them. Analysis of the flare's impossible trajectory and energy signature. Exurthal's auxiliary breathing sacs inflated in alarm. Your species shouldn't have detected our involvement, he admitted after a long silence. And you certainly shouldn't have maintained planetary functionality. Is this how the Concorde typically makes first contact? Maya asked, struggling to contain her anger. With attacks disguised as natural phenomena. Not attacks. Assessments. Hell's neural pathways pulsed with agitation visible through his translucent skin. The Urket would have redirected our flare entirely. The ambassador's compound eyes widened with what might have been fear or awe. Your adaptation rate is accelerating beyond our predictive models. This changes everything. Dr. Eleanor Chen's unauthorized access to the Concorde archives continued each sleep cycle, exploiting the dimensional overlap Seto had discovered. What she found wasn't a coherent history, but fragments deliberately scattered across 17 different classification systems, a cosmic jigsaw puzzle designed to prevent complete understanding of the Urket. They've intentionally compartmentalized this information, she explained to Maya and the team. Each species only knows pieces, preventing any single consciousness from assembling the complete picture. Maya made a decision that would have violated a dozen Earth protocols. We're converting our hydroponics chamber into an analog data visualization space. Working in secret, they used colored string to physically connect seemingly unrelated Urket characteristics across the chamber, creating a three-dimensional representation of data too complex for standard analysis. Red threads linked adaptive capabilities. Blue mapped pattern recognition abilities. Green tracked cooperative behaviors. After 3 days, the pattern that emerged was undeniable. It's not that we're unpredictable, Chen realized during a midnight breakthrough, staring at the intricate web they'd created. It's that we're the only species that can change faster than the universe itself. The visualization revealed stark differences between evolutionary paths. Where Concorde species developed specialized traits over millions of years, hunters evolved extraordinary adaptation capabilities that operated on generational or even individual timescales. Look at these pattern recognition markers. Seto pointed to a cluster of yellow threads. The Urket could predict environmental changes before instrumentation detected them, almost like precognition. Dr. Nkrumah, who had been running genetic comparisons, looked up from his tablet. I found something. Subtle markers in human DNA match ancient Urket samples in the Concorde database. Not enough to suggest direct ancestry, but genetic engineering, Maya suggested. More like seeding, Nkrumah replied. As if they introduced specific traits into early hominid populations, then let evolution take its course. Svetlana, who had been silent throughout, finally spoke. They're afraid of us not because we're unpredictable, but because we're the only species capable of facing what they fear. The team fell silent, considering the implications. The Concorde achieved stability through specialization, Maya reasoned, tracing connection points in their string model. Each species fulfills a specific role in a galactic ecosystem, but specialization creates vulnerability. If a threat emerges that no species is adapted to confront, you need a generalist, Seto finished. A species that can adapt to unknown challenges. A hunter, Chen whispered. That night, as Maya finally collapsed into exhausted sleep, the dreams began, not just for her, but for the entire human team. Visions of stars viewed from unfamiliar worlds, the sensation of traveling vast distances not through space, but through thought itself, and most disturbing, a darkness approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge, a hunger so ancient and vast it defied comprehension. Maya woke gasping, the dream fragments already fading. Only one image remained clear, a symbol matching exactly the untranslated glyph beneath the hunter classification. They left something in us, she realized, heart-pounding. Not just genetic markers, memory triggers. She faced the most crucial decision of the mission. Conceal their discoveries from the Concorde, potentially protecting Earth but sacrificing truth, or confront the aliens with what they'd learned, risking everything on the possibility that the Urket were more than the monsters of alien memory. Before she could decide, the emergency alert sounded throughout their habitat. The Concorde was calling an unprecedented full council session. A rogue comet had been detected on collision course with the Nurturer colony world. The Concorde's emergency council chamber pulsed with chromatic distress signals as Maya's team arrived. Holographic projections displayed a rogue comet's trajectory, a celestial body nearly 30 kilometers in diameter on direct collision course with Harmony, the Nurturer species' primary colony world. Population: 8 billion. Impact in 27 hours, announced the ephemeride's representative, its mathematically perfect form flickering with calculation stress. Detection delay caused by anomalous quantum properties in the object's composition. How was this not detected earlier? Demanded the Trelvac mediator. The comet's path intersected 3 different dimensional planes, explained Exoirthal. Our standard detection protocols failed. Maya studied the projection models showing catastrophic casualties inevitable under standard Concorde response protocols. Their fastest evacuation ships couldn't reach Harmony in time. Their deflection technology required setup durations that exceeded the impact timeline. A silence descended over the council chamber as the advanced species faced an insurmountable problem. Their specialized technologies, perfect for expected threats, useless against this unprecedented one. "We can help," Maya stated simply. All 17 representatives turned their attention arrays toward her. "Your vessel lacks both range and deflection capabilities," Exoirthal replied, neural pathways pulsing with confusion. Without explaining, Maya turned to her team. A silent understanding passed between them. Within minutes, they were racing toward their prototype vessel, the Harbinger, which they had secretly upgraded with reverse-engineered Concorde technology, accessed through their dimensional exploit. "What's your plan?" Sado asked as they prepared for emergency launch. "Dr. Chen's impossible solution," Maya replied, nodding to the physicist. Chen's hands danced across the modified navigation controls. "Standard approaches focus on deflecting the entire comet intact. But my analysis of its structure reveals natural fault lines. If we use the ship's experimental gravity generators not to deflect but to fracture it precisely, we transform a single extinction-level impact into survivable meteor showers." Nkrumah finished, already calculating dispersal patterns. The Harbinger launched without authorization, pushing its hybrid engines beyond safety parameters. As they approached the massive comet, Maya experienced her first conscious hunter intuition. Time seemed to slow as her perception expanded. She saw patterns in the comet's structure invisible to instruments, fracture points that shouldn't be detectable. "Adjust targeting coordinates," she ordered, rattling off numbers that came from nowhere yet felt absolutely certain. "Trust me." The gravitational pulse fired, precisely modulated to exploit the comet's natural weaknesses. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then fissures appeared along exactly the lines Maya had predicted. The massive object broke apart, its deadly momentum dispersed into trajectories that would largely miss Harmony or burn up in its atmosphere. They returned to Europa greeted by stunned silence. The council chamber's atmosphere had transformed. Fear remained, but now mixed with something new. Reluctant awe. Exoirthal, mandated by unprecedented unanimous vote, activated the restricted archives. 3-dimensional star maps illuminated the chamber, showing hundreds of worlds glowing with genetic markers identical to those found in human DNA. "The Urquette didn't die," the ambassador explained, voice modulator struggling with concepts never meant for translation. "They became gardeners after being hunters, planting themselves across the galaxy in diluted form, then vanishing." The star map expanded, revealing a pattern Maya recognized from her dreams, a symmetrical arrangement of seeded worlds forming a protective network around the galaxy's spiral arms. Earth isn't an anomaly. It's the first successful germination. The revelation fractured both Earth and Concorde unity. On Europa, 17 emergency sessions across 4 habitats yielded 17 different proposals. The Quar archives suggested immediate human quarantine. The Trelvac mediators advocated careful alliance building. The nurturers, grateful for their colony's salvation, proposed full integration into Concord society. Each species interpreted humanity's hunter nature through the lens of their own specialized evolution, unable to comprehend the totality of what awakening Urket consciousness might mean. On Earth, the transmitted findings triggered simultaneous crises across human civilization. Religious institutions faced theological upheaval as ancient texts were re-examined for hidden references to extraterrestrial influence. Scientific communities fractured between those embracing the evidence and others questioning its validity. Political systems strained as populations demanded contradictory responses. Isolation from potential galactic threats versus acceleration of space exploration. Meanwhile, Maya led an unauthorized expedition to Mars' southern pole, following coordinates extracted from Concord archives by Sato and Chen. Their small shuttle descended through a dust storm that seemed to part before them, not by coincidence, Maya realized, but by design. The storm itself was a security system, recognizing something in their genetic signature. Beneath meters of Martian ice, they discovered an entrance that responded to no conventional mechanism, but opened at Maya's touch. The Urket vault beyond contained artifacts that had waited in perfect preservation for 1,000,000 years. Not weapons, as the Concord feared, but perceptual tools. "These aren't technological devices," Dr. Chen whispered, examining a crystalline structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "They're consciousness interfaces." When Maya's fingers touched the primary artifact, a spiraling object that resembled a double helix composed of light, it dissolved into her skin. Information cascaded directly into her mind, bypassing sensory organs entirely. Not data as humans understood it, but perception itself. Layers of reality that had always existed but remained invisible to both humans and Concord species. Through these new senses, Maya perceived patterns connecting quantum particles across vast distances. She saw how gravity could be manipulated through thought. Most disturbingly, she detected something massive at the galaxy's edge, a distortion in space-time that seemed to be approaching, leaving emptiness in its wake. As her team helped her back to the shuttle, the quantum communicator activated with an urgent message from Exoearthal. Simultaneous signals had activated from 3 other seeded worlds across the galaxy. The pattern was unmistakable. Urket consciousness awakening not just on Earth, but on multiple worlds simultaneously. Back on Europa, Dr. Chen decoded the mathematical structure underlying the transmission pattern. A countdown. The Concord's deep space arrays detected massive energy distortions at the galaxy's edge. Something vast awakening from interstellar hibernation. "You've doomed us all," accused the Ephemeride's representative during an emergency council session. "The Hunter awakening has triggered the very catastrophe the Concord has worked millions of years to prevent." But Maya, still processing the perceptual expansion from the Martian artifacts, experienced her most powerful Hunter intuition yet. These events weren't triggered by human discovery, but by something else entirely. The Urket weren't just gardeners, but sentinels, and their gardens were becoming an army for a reason. "You've misunderstood everything," she told the council, her eyes perceiving connections invisible to them. "We're not the threat. We're the response to a threat you can't even perceive." The joint human Concord expedition vessel Revelation approached the coordinates at the galaxy's core, its crew an unprecedented collaboration of species united by existential fear. Maya stood on the observation deck, the Urket artifacts now permanently bonded to her nervous system, creating visible patterns beneath her skin, neural pathways reminiscent of Exoearthal's translucent anatomy. "We're approaching the coordinates," announced Svetlana from the navigation console, "but sensors detect nothing unusual." "Because you're looking with conventional perception," Maya replied. Through her enhanced senses, she perceived what the others couldn't. A massive Dyson swarm constructed around a quantum singularity, previously invisible to all Concord detection methods. As they closed the final distance, the seemingly empty region of space transformed before everyone's eyes. The Dyson swarm materialized as if emerging from another dimension, millions of interconnected structures harvesting energy from the controlled black hole at its center. "By all that exists," whispered Exoerthal, "it was here all along." As they docked at the swarm's access point, Maya experienced overwhelming déjà vu. She had walked these corridors before, in dreams she never fully remembered. The human and Concord representatives followed her through passageways that reconfigured themselves around the visitors, leading to a vast central chamber unlike anything in known physics. The chamber activated at their presence, materializing a being of pure energy that shifted between forms, at times appearing as the predatory silhouette from the hunter classification, at times eerily human, and occasionally manifesting aspects of all 17 Concord species simultaneously. "We are the first hunters," it announced, its voice simultaneously in their minds and reverberating through the chamber. 1,000,000 years ago, we detected the harvesters approaching, entities that consume all sapient life in cycles spanning millions of years. Holographic histories manifested throughout the chamber, showing the original Urket nearly driving themselves extinct battling the first harvester scouts, before realizing a single hunter species could never prevail against the full invasion. "Our solution wasn't extinction," the entity explained, "but evolution." The holographs displayed the Urket seeding hundreds of compatible worlds with their essence, carefully calculating which environments would produce the necessary hunter traits, while avoiding the development of self-destructive tendencies. Then they entered hibernation until new hunter variants emerged naturally. The Concord's 17 specialized species create balance and civilization, the entity explained, addressing Exoerthal directly. "Your kind preserves and maintains, but hunters create possibility, the capacity to conceive what has never existed and bring it into reality." The being turned to Maya. "Humanity is the first to awaken, but not the last. Already 3 other hunter species approach consciousness. Together with the Concord, you form the galaxy's immune system against what comes from beyond." At the chamber's edge, a final holograph activated, showing a visualization of the threat approaching the galaxy. Not merely an enemy force, but a fundamental negation of consciousness itself, entities that fed on sapient thought, leaving empty husks of worlds in their wake. As understanding dawned, Maya realized humanity's contradictory nature wasn't a cosmic mistake, but its greatest strength, the capacity to simultaneously create and destroy, to love and fight, to build futures no other species could imagine. "We return to you what was always yours," the entity said, touching Maya's forehead. The full heritage of the Urket consciousness cascaded through her, not overriding human identity, but enhancing it, revealing humanity's authentic cosmic purpose. The harvesters arrived within 1 generation. The entity warned as the expedition prepared to depart. "How you prepare will determine if life in this galaxy survives."